Morning. I had a discovery. I'm not such a history buff, but do y'all remember the conversation around Al Gore inventing the internet? Guess what? I found out it's true. Why do you think they call it algorithms?
Oh my God. Oh my goodness.
Well, I don't know about that one, Tara.
Put that on the list of one of the worst. Which makes it one of the best.
Algorithm.
An algorithm.
I'm glad y'all are old enough to remember that. Al Gore. I think somebody asked me, who's Al Gore? Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. I'm a little giggly this morning because I'm so excited to share this story with you all. I think you'll never forget it. But first, we're going to get in the mood with a few questions. And I'm going to start with my dear friend, Giovanni. Giovanni, tell us all this morning, what time is it?
Oh, hold on one second. It appears it doesn't escape me. The time is now.
Excellent. That's right. The only time that matters. I love that. Andrea, so beautiful to see your smile this morning. Tell me, where are you and what are you grateful for?
I am where I need to be, which is right here, the only place I can be. And I'm grateful for the family we've created here at the Daily Huddle. The sense of family, not just community, but family. That's what I'm grateful for.
I feel that so much, my sweet sister. Thank you for saying that. And I am going to ask Stacy a question.
Okay, come on.
Bringing that loving energy. Where are you, Stacy, and who are you going to hug today?
I am where I need to be, right here, right now. And the only time that matters, right? And who am I going to hug today? I better make sure that I hug my fiance, Joy Sonia. If I hug anybody else, I'm going to be in some trouble. So that's the only person I'm hugging today.
I love that.
I'm going to hug myself. I'm going to hug myself today.
I love it. I really must tell you that I look forward to a day when I get to hug both you and Joy Sonia. So I will look forward to that. So let's kick this baby off. We've got something beautiful to share with you all this morning that will make you believe in love. And we are talking about joy and seizing joy and asking ourselves this hard question: what are we waiting for? Today is Wednesday on the Daily Huddle, where we always talk communication and relationships. And so with that, I'm not going to read a bio. I'm just going to introduce my co-host, Kathryn Sabol, because she is the star of this story. And Kathryn Sabol is a brilliant business coach. And I am a recipient of some of her brilliance, which always comes over with wisdom and love. And I am so honored to be joined here with her this morning. So Kathryn, tell us, kick off this story for us, and then I will chime in because I was only a co-star.
Well, you were a co-star, and I don't know that I'm the star of the story. I guess that remains to be seen. But so a couple of weeks ago, I went up to Carlisle, Pennsylvania to visit my boyfriend, Tom, who happens to be on the call. And I went up there because he was in Army War College, which is a pretty big deal. It's the senior most education that the military offers. And I'd watched him over the last year and a half, be dedicated and work through the program and struggle at times to balance all of the different priorities that he has. But so he was up there for 2 weeks for the final in-person part of the program, and then he was going to graduate that final Friday. So I was up there the previous weekend, and I just I like to go and visit and see where he is and learn more about his world. And we had a great time. And, something started to show up for me while I was up there. He would say, there were no other family members up there when I was up there. And he would start to say, yeah, the families are coming in on Wednesday and Thursday, for the graduation on Friday. And I was like, wait, the families are coming in Wednesday and Thursday. Why am I here now? I didn't know that was a big deal. So just to, start to pay attention. And then we go and we tour the based where the War College is. And, he's telling me all about it and who's graduated from there, Eisenhower, Patton. I'm like, wait a minute. This is not just a big deal. This is a really big deal. I think in my mind, I had thought, if you at that level, because he had played it down some too. He had said, and he knows this, it's just another master's, or gosh, at 10:05 when that graduation's over, I'm in the car and I'm headed back. So I'm thinking, okay, the graduation isn't that big of a deal. Like the program is, but maybe the graduation isn't. More and more that week, I started to get a sense that this was a really big deal and nobody was going to be at his graduation. He had told his mom not to come, even though she had asked. And he had not made it a big deal to me at all. So fast forward, I go home on Tuesday, the Tuesday before the Friday graduation, and this is not sitting well with me. It will not leave my mind. I am like, there is no way that that man is going to walk across that stage with nobody sitting in the audience, supporting him for all that he's been through. So here comes Wednesday. And Tara, this is where you get to jump into the story. I am really uneasy with this. Tara and I had planned for her to come over. We were going to do some business planning together. And just before she had gotten there, I'd been texting with Tom's mom, and I just had said to her, I wish I'd figured this out sooner, that this was this big of a deal. And something in that text clicked for me. And I was like, I've got to figure this out. I've got to figure out how to get back up to Pennsylvania by Friday. Bing, Tara walks in. And I was like, okay, put that aside. We're here. We're going to do some business planning with Tara. I did mention to you that I think when you first walked in the door, I was like, this is what's going on. I'm a little like, whoa. Because I had told Tom the night before I left, I was like, don't you ever do this again. Don't you ever take an important event in your life and downplay it so much that the people who are important to you don't realize that they need to be there to support you. That's not fair to any of us. So here we are Wednesday. Tara comes in. We start our business planning. And about, I don't know, an hour into it, it's running in the back of my mind, like, how can I figure this out? About an hour into it, Tara says, okay, enough about me. When are we going to solve your problem? When are we going to figure out how to get you on a plane to Pennsylvania? Right?
Right. Yes. I remember so well. It was Wednesday and the graduation was Friday morning, right?
Yeah.
And
so I said,
go ahead.
Well, I said, give me a second, because if I start thinking about that, there was so much that I had to do. I had meetings. I had a lunch with a dear friend who I hadn't seen in months, I haven't seen him in over a year, but it would have been planned for months. So I had my kids, there's all these different things that had to be worked out. Anyway, at 4:30, Tara would not let up. She put on the pressure, and I started going through the calendar. I started going through all the things, booked a flight at 4:30. And by 9:30 that night, I was on a plane back to Pennsylvania. So Tom did not know this. All the while I had told him, hey, Tara and I are doing our business planning. We're going to be a while. If you could just wait up for me, I do want to talk to you tonight. So I hop on that plane. I get off at 11:30 in Pennsylvania, get into the slowest Uber that ever existed. Okay. The 30-minute drive from Harrisburg to Carlisle was painful, right? Tara's texting me, are you there? Are you there? Like, I'm here. I'm in the car. But Tara, this was your idea. So I get to the outside of his hotel, and I had already figured out the side door that I could sneak in, because I had been there the previous week, where I could get to his door without being seen. And I texted him and I said, hey, I've been trying to have something delivered to you all night, and I'm so sorry it's late, but it just got there and it's outside your door. And about a minute later, the door opens and he's looking at the ground, expecting something to be on the ground, sees my suitcase, and then looks up and looks at me. And I'll never forget that moment. He dissolved into tears. The impact of seeing me there and knowing what it meant for me to get back up there just culminated all in that moment. And Tom, I'd love to bring you in right now to talk about what was the impact on you.
Yeah, exactly as you said. I'm a literal person, someone that's from the military training. So what you had said about, something outside the door, I was fixated looking at the floor. I didn't see anything there. That on my peripheral, I saw a suitcase, and I started to look up, and then I saw the most beautiful smile, this very expectant smile looking at me, and in an instant, any kind of conscious thought just evaporated, and I lost all control, just emotionally collapsing into the moment, and the tears flowing. We were out there for, you pieced it together for me afterward. We were out there for several minutes. And
So
then
long that I had to say,
can I come in?
come inside?
But eventually I stammered out the words that, you're here. Yeah, that's all I could eventually just mutter. But to have someone who cares about you just be so curious and just so thoughtful to figure it out. I never intend to try to, not be open, but I guess I'm not a very transparent person in some ways, but to have figured it out and to give such a gift of joy in that way. Oh my gosh, I've been in the Marine Corps 27 years. My daughter's birthday was that day. She turned 15. I've missed most of her birthdays, being overseas in another state, training something with the military. So I've got that. I'm the registering of, it's the school, but to go to the school, what you have to have done over your career, the experiences and the losses overseas, and have it all hit you, that someone just cares about you so much to do that act. That's how I felt. That's how I received it.
Well, it definitely showed. It was a wonderful thing to do. And it's the gift that keeps on giving. We have had so much fun telling the story to other people. The emotion that it brings, the love that it shows, how people get engaged with it all. And watching Tom, like even from that moment, I mean, it was literally an hour before he could say anything. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but it was a while before he could say anything other than you're here. And yes, you can come in. And I think to your point about the impact, if you don't mind, I want to share what you shared with Tara, because you all connected after that. And you said in all my years of training and of being in the military, that you've been in some very severe casualty situations. You've been shot at multiple times, and never had you found yourself speechless.
Yeah.
That's the impact of that.
Yeah. And then then understand, Tara, in your role, and just to show gratitude to you for helping. It's just amazing.
Yeah, Tara, what was it like for you to be on that? Because you gave the idea of go up to the door, and that was such a good, oh my gosh, that was so good. I think Tara was loving it more than I was, all the way up there. Are you there? Are you there? Where are you?
There's some dynamics here that, and I'm not a crier. Kathryn knows that. But every time I think through this, I get so teary, and I want to offer some dynamics, I think, that will probably help to explain why. Kathryn is a single mom with two little boys. One has vast special needs, and she is his champion, and she's also her other son's champion. And she's responsible for everything pretty much on her own. And so those boys are her priority. And I relate to this because I too was a single mom for a while and found a new love in my life. And it's a different dynamic when you've got children and then somebody comes into your life and you want to make them the priority. You can say it, you can tell them that they're a priority, but it's hard to show it because the kids always seem to come first. So then you add on to that a couple things about Kathryn. She is the most self-disciplined, organized, intentional woman I probably know. This like planning some spontaneous surprise, that's all me. That is not in her wheelhouse. And she wanted to go, but she was already like talking about calling him and telling him to pick her up from the airport. I'm like, no, what? But what is all Kathryn is this pure, fierce love. And I just continued to say, because y'all, the angst of her planning this, I don't even know if Tom knows this. She's like, I have this lunch with somebody tomorrow. I haven't seen him in years. I gave him my word. My friendship is important to him. I don't want to cancel that. My mom's coming in town. I haven't seen my boys in a week. I mean, there were so many things in the way that she had to try to navigate. She has a big, fancy executive job with a lot of responsibilities there. I mean, there was just all these messages that said, it's just not possible. Send him some flowers, tell him you love him. But one by one, we peeled back every barrier and figured out how to even make some of them work for her. Like, I'll give a strong example. One is that, her mom was coming in town. She wanted everything perfect and the bed's done and the groceries there. And I'm like, you know what? Let's use this as an opportunity not to plan, to just be in the moment with your family, figure it out if it's ordering pizza, whatever the case may be. So one by one, she had a very wonderful conversation with the gentleman who she was supposed to have lunch with. And it gave her an opportunity to tell him how much she missed him and how much he meant to her. And one by one, we made this happen. And the reason why I'm so excited to share it is I want us to leave here this morning with a lesson that opportunities like this are everywhere. When we stop and really think about what matters, it is unbelievable what we can make happen. I mean, she used up her points, and I mean, just the list goes on, and trying to make this happen, left me in her house with a half-drunk bottle of wine, and she was on an Uber. And I will just never forget it, because I remember I continued to say to her, this is an opportunity for you to actually show Tom that he's a priority. And y'all will never forget this, I know, because nor will I.
Mm-hmm. That's it. I just kept thinking of all the things that are in the way. I won't remember those in a month and a year. I won't remember them, But this, I knew he would never forget it.
Well, then the next day, so this is Wednesday night. The next day we had one more day in school, and then graduation was Friday. So Kathryn was working out of the hotel room, and then I was back at school. I could feel myself starting to go through the thought process of, how do I reciprocate? I mean, just like a lot of us, like my personality, I'm just not comfortable if I feel like there's not balance. So if someone does something for you, then it's the question, well, how do I reciprocate? Because if I reciprocate, maybe that's a way to show that I care. But I stopped myself very early in that thought process and said, she wants me to feel and experience this gift of joy so fully. It would be disrespectful to the act and to Kathryn if I reflexively then tried to reciprocate. I need to receive it fully and show her that I have such gratitude for what she's done.
And that was such a beautiful thing to watch Tom receive it, especially somebody who's so giving, because I imagine it's hard. I know that it's harder for you to receive than to give. And so for me, and Sorrel wrote it in the chat, it's like, I'm getting from this, that's why I say, I don't think I'm the star. I mean, I think it's Tom, but I'm giving, but oh my gosh, I'm getting so much back watching him light up. It went from this sort of drab looking forward to Friday to starting to get really excited about it and talking through it. And it was the fullness of it, from the thought to the recognizing to the act of doing, and then to watching you receive it. It's what life's about. There's really nothing better.
And Friday was an incredible day. I've never been that present, for any big seminal event like that. And just from waking up and just, we went on a jog and just mapped out, what do we want the day to be? And we maximized it. And the graduation was phenomenal, and Kathryn right there. And then we realized we had to rush to the airport because someone had to get back to Atlanta because mom was coming to town. And so I'm still in my full dress blue uniform, and Kathryn's still in her dress. And so take her to the Harrisburg airport, walk her in, and as you're going through TSA, that I moved off to the side just so I could watch. But where I was standing, there was a stream of people that were just coming from the terminal. And if you're in the military and you're dressed like that, you only dress like that for, a funeral, casualty call service, maybe a wedding, or some other official event. So people were just curious. And this older man was walking by, and he stopped and he looked at me and he smiled and he said, whoever you're waiting on must be very important. And I looked at him and I said, yes, she is. And then he continued walking by.
Oh my gosh, this definitely makes us believe in love. You all probably, some of you know that I write a lot about joy because, and this is just the most beautiful example of it. We have a tendency, human nature is that we stay in our stress. We have something called a negativity bias. It's actually part of the actual fact of our brain. And it goes all the way back to when cavemen were looking to survive, and they were always fearing for their lives. So we don't fear for our lives every day anymore, but we still have this negativity bias ingrained in us. And the reason why I bring this up is because this is such a beautiful example of your overcoming all the obstacles and not leaning into that. But we have this tendency to think, okay, my mom is ill, or my marriage is on the rocks, or I'm worried about finances, and anything that we have that's stressful, we think, well, we're gonna get to joy when all these things are in order. And that day will never come. And I've said this to my children many times. I'm like, you think that you've been through tough times and you've had your fill, and now here comes the rainbow. Life is not that way. There will every day be a reason to wake up and find something to cry about and something to celebrate. And we have to focus on the opportunities to celebrate what we have to celebrate. And thank you for sharing such a beautiful example of that, because it takes intention. It really does. We think in some way that we're not owed joy. It is ours to seize.
It is. And this is a big act, right? I mean, just in the sense that it took a lot of things to get there. And it was sort of a very, monumentous occasion. But there are opportunities to do things like this for people all over the place. When's the last time you sent flowers to somebody just because? Like my dear friend Meg, she's been on the Daily Huddle. She saw a friend in the parking lot the other day and she knew it was her birthday. She ran back into the grocery store, grabbed flowers, put them on her windshield and hid. And didn't put a card, and watched the joy on her face when she got to their car and saw the flowers. I mean, there are opportunities everywhere. Telling a stranger, gosh, you're beautiful today. Do you know that you're beautiful? Like just even that. So I think, and then how much we get from when we do that, and then how much the other person gets. I kept thinking before, or when I was deciding to book the flight, like, is there anything else that life is about? I don't think so. I think this is it. Like, this is it. Right? Like, what could be more important? Yeah.
Yeah. I know we're running close to time. We haven't even asked if anyone wants to raise a hand, make a comment. I don't know that this would offer a question, maybe a question for Tom. And if we, so let's open it up for questions or comments. And then I think you have a few pictures to share, don't you?
I do.
Awesome.
Stacey.
Really quickly, apologize for the background noise. I don't have my headphones today. How do we, and I'm not sure if this has been addressed, how do we define joy?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, Stacey, I think we define it for ourselves. You would have to define it for yourself of like, what is joy to me? Because for me, joy is eating a cupcake. I love cake. Can't help it. I love icing. Joy is doing something nice for a friend. Laying with my kids just laid on me. I love just laying around with my kids. But I guess if you distill it down, it's a feeling. It's a feeling of lightness and bliss and happiness.
I want to chime in on that real quickly because I've done a lot of studying, especially all the way back to Greek mythology, about joy versus pleasure. And they used to think like hedonistic joy, like an accumulation of hedonistic pleasure could equal joy. And then they said, no, it's got to be pleasure with purpose. And that was called something called eudaimonism. And then they said, no. The true answer to happiness is something called arete. And what arete is pleasure with purpose when we're striving to reach our potential. That's like apparently, and now there's science that backs that up. And I could tell you all about that, and I won't do that today, but that's exactly what Kathryn did that day, is she leaned into the pleasure of the moment. There was a purpose. It was showing Tom that he mattered more than anything else on that day. And then she moved everything out of the way, reaching her ultimate potential to get on that airplane and tell some lies so that she could make that moment. So that's my explanation. And I can talk science about this all day long, but we have Gio and Sorrel. Sorrel, I think you had your hand up next, so I'll push.
This question is for Tom. Kathryn, Tara, and Tom, thank you for modeling what it looks like to give joy. And Tom, my question for you is, what was it like resisting this so innate and so normal need or reflex to reciprocate? What was it like in the moment for you when you caught yourself wanting to reciprocate and then you stopped yourself? What was that like?
Well, I've never actually overcome that urge to reciprocate. So it was a very new feeling, Sorrel, but it was very eye-opening. It was very refreshing, and it deepened the impact, of the act of what Kathryn gave me. I just saw it in a whole deeper way. Now, a few days later, as I reflected more and more, and then to write on paper to give to Kathryn to help her understand more fully what it meant to me. That's not reciprocation. That's showing the impact and the level of gratitude. But it was a very new feeling, Sorrel. It was. That by itself was, it was so positive on top of what had already been so joyous.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. It just created for me in this moment this sort of looping effect where when I reciprocate, maybe I stop the joy flow.
Yeah, I think that's well said. You're exactly right. Because then Kathryn, I think rightfully would have looked at me and like, well, why are you resisting? Because if you're reciprocating, you're resisting on some level.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that you can do the reciprocation anytime. I mean, it doesn't have to be tied to one thing or the other. So what I'd add is it's when I don't fully accept the gift that was given to me. When somebody gives you a gift, the greatest gift you can give them is receive it. Yeah. Gio, we've got time for one more.
Well, that's deep. That's deep.
That was deep. I love this story. This was such a great story. My gosh. And it was a movie story, and lovely that you guys are sharing it with us. And I was there, and I felt the love, and I felt the upset. Like, how could you not tell me this was important to you, right? And I felt also but I didn't really want to bother you. I know it's important to me, and I felt Tara being an unbelievable friend. Like, what the F? No, you've got to be there. What's going on here? Hold on. And then I felt Kathryn saying, really, should I not? This is insane. You don't understand. This is how I live my life. This doesn't. Then I felt the whole entire thing. And when Tom looked up, I felt like I was looking up as well. And Tom starts crying, and I'm like crying over here. Like, this is amazing. So I had to relive my experience of hearing this story for you guys. And I thrive and I love and I have joy in my life. And I know this is going to sound weird, but I promise you it's not. I have found joy in my life preventing moments like that. They're so vulnerable. They're so real. I'd rather not have them. Like Tom, I don't want to have them. I don't want to break down. But there's something about today's conversation that left me curious to discover and explore the possibility of ceasing joy, right? And what's available in my life. So I wanted to thank you for today's conversation.
Thank you, Gio. Thank you. Oh my gosh. And thank you for letting me, I know we're a minute over, we're going to go ahead and close out. Thanks for letting us share this. It is vulnerable, Gio. It is vulnerable to share it with everyone. And I feel that, but we get so much out of sharing it. So this has been awesome. We're going to close out with our 7 tenets. And then I'm going to share a couple of pictures also while I'm doing this. Let's see if I can multitask. This is what it was like to be there. This is the smile I got to see. Can y'all see that picture? So, yeah, love your heart out, love other people, give of all of your gifts, give of everything that you have. This is the look you might get from somebody who's receiving the joy that you have to offer. And sleep. Yeah. Get your sleep, stress less, eat more plants. I don't have a place for that in this story, but still do it anyway. Eat more plants and laugh out loud. This is his class. And look, the only person looking at me is Tom. Everybody else is looking at somebody else taking a picture. He said, I knew you were taking a picture. I was looking directly at you. That made me laugh out loud. And y'all, thanks for letting us share this story today. It's been amazing. Move your body. Give your gifts, love, love, love. And we will see you all tomorrow on the Daily Huddle.
Wonderful, man. This was beautiful. Thank you so much, Kathryn.
Thank you.
Tara.
Beautiful.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.